And some of the issues that came up in the game are things that have kind of continued to plague us, at least over the 2 years that I've been here. Obviously some things that we need to continue to work and clean up. When you look at the tape, you look at a lot of things that, as I said, have been, long-term issues, things that we're trying to work through to improve. But when I look at a lot of it too, I see a lot of young players, and I think that as they're learning and growing, they're making mistakes that are kind of understandable. There's probably some guys that maybe aren't completely ready to be out there to play, but they are out there, I think, giving everything they have. I think sometimes, some people maybe assume that those guys aren't trying hard. I think they're trying really hard. I think that at times there's a learning curve that comes with playing when you're young, and there's a lot of young guys on the field, and because of that, some of those mistakes, when you're confused, sometimes it looks like you're not going that hard, but I don't think that's the case. I think that we just continue to work and continue to learn and continue to grow and continue to get better, and probably one of the number one things that I'm trying to push on our players is no matter what the score of every game is, it's an opportunity to go out and continue to improve. It's an opportunity for our guys to continue to learn so that whether it's this coming week, 3 weeks down the road, or 2 years down the road, you're a better football player so that Rutgers is in a better chance to be in a position to be a championship-type football team. And, obviously that's not the product that was on the field on Saturday. But I do believe, the work that they're putting in practice and, some of the mistakes that we're making in the games are things that, hopefully we're learning and growing from. Now, if we continue to make them in the same way, then shame on us. We got to do a much better job from a coaching standpoint. But, as far as the players, I think that they're continuing to strive to improve, and some of the issues that we have are just going to be, some of them are developmental, and they will take time. So, any questions?
Nunzio, how do you jumpstart the passing attack? Is it a matter of maybe changing the scheme? I'm assuming you're sticking with Johnny, but can you do anything up front? Can you change the wide receivers? How do you jumpstart it out?
There are a myriad of issues of why we've struggled to throw the football. Some of it, as we've talked about a few times, I guess, is consistency of scheme. So I don't think it's trying to scrap what you're doing. It's trying to get better at what we're doing. I mean, some of the issues that we ran into, 3 times we tried to throw the ball down the field, we got sacked. That can't happen. We completed 5 passes for 1 yard. That is, it's got to be almost impossible. So, some of the things is just being in the right places, some of the detail. A couple of the screens had a chance. A couple of the plays that we tried to throw it down the field, we thought we had good matchups. We had a couple of different protection issues. So I think a lot of it is just continuing to learn. I think the quarterbacks, like yesterday, went out to practice and they did a great job. All 3 of the guys that were getting work did a great job. They're learning, but they're learning under live bullets, and at times maybe they're not entirely ready for some of the things that they're seeing.
Good. You said 3 guys working. You got a guy on the roster threw for 300 yards a couple weeks ago. Is there any talk to Art, maybe reconsider? Is anything changed with him, or?
As I've said a few times, it's a brave new world. I'm still coaching him, and I think he's working hard to get better. And maybe there's a point where he feels comfortable enough in what we're doing that he wants to play. I haven't had any indication that he doesn't want to be at Rutgers anymore. So, we'll handle that as we go. But I've been happy with his work ethic and the way he's gone out to practice.
Aside from Art and Raheem, has anybody come to you with that, at least thinking that they might want a red shirt?
Not other than the freshmen that have been planning, or sophomores that have been planning to all along. Most of the guys at this point are past that, even
most,
the ability.
But some are still.
Yeah, and those are guys that we probably planned on redshirting anyway. So it'll really depend on some of the young guys. If there's injury and there's opportunity for them to start, they want to play. But if not, then we're going to manage. We're not going to put their career. We're not going to make them lose a year of their career.
Coach, have you addressed the issue of Art and Raheem with the rest of the team?
Sure.
What was the response? What was that like?
There's no way I'll discuss that.
Nunzio, with regards to Raheem, he, was billed as your best player on the roster. A lot of fans are curious, what his motivation is. My question is, as far as, does he want to come back? Because we haven't talked to him. That's the only reason why I'm going to press you a little bit on Raheem. Does he want to come back, or is the NFL potential? Because he's a junior. What's his future hold? What's his motivation?
I don't know if that's been decided yet, to be honest. Maybe he's trying to wait to see, what the situation becomes here in 6 or 7 weeks. But I've not gotten any indication that he intends to transfer either.
Coach, you've been a coach at a lot of big North Jersey programs in high school. Last week, we kind of talked about what the transition was like for you as a coach. A lot of these players are usually the star player or one of the star players on a team that does really well. For a lot of them, I'd imagine this is the first experience they've had with losing at this level and consistently. How have they dealt with that? Is there anything you do to address that? Because these guys probably haven't experienced this, in high school or even in college.
Well, one of the biggest things I said to them yesterday, I came in, I said, we're not going to turn this place into a morgue. I mean, we have an opportunity to go out and play football. We're not going to hang our heads every day. We're going to go out and try and find a way to get better and kind of wipe the slate clean and, try and get to 1-0 every week. I mean, we have a great opportunity to play this week against a really good football team that's playing great football in our own building. It's a great opportunity. So, to me, if you love football and you love your team, you're going to go out and play hard every day. So, believe me, I understand the frustration, and the players are frustrated. They want better results, but, the biggest thing is we have to focus on going out and trying to get better every day. And I know that sounds cliche, but there's really no other way to go about it. We're not going to walk around like we lost our dog.
I asked you this on Saturday, but now that you've had a couple days to absorb what went on, at some point, do you throw Cole out there and maybe see what he has? I mean, obviously he has 4 games to work with. He could still redshirt. At some point, do you go to him just to see what he could do?
I guess it's a possibility, but that really wasn't. I mean, like I said the other day, it would have been totally unfair to him, and I still think it would be totally unfair to him. I mean, we're already playing a guy that, I told the quarterbacks the other day, when Peyton Manning was a rookie in the NFL, he set the NFL interception record. Freshmen should not be playing in the Big Ten on developmental teams. I don't care what anybody says. So I don't care if it's Art Sikowski, Johnny Langan, or Cole, it doesn't matter, and so to keep changing is not really the answer. The answer is to keep developing. Now, Cole's doing a great job in practice, but he's basically been a scout team player for the last 9 weeks. So to ask him to go out and play in a game, and honestly, Johnny was pretty much been in that same role up until 2 weeks ago. So, to ask those guys to go out and perform, like a senior. I mean, I watch some of these guys play that are great players that have been playing for 3 or 4 years, having a tough time against some of these defenses. So, we did the same thing last year when we went to Maryland. That was a very similar day. 7 yards we threw for, and 5 interceptions. So, we knew that last year with Art. That he was in a tough spot. So I think that we'll continue to work these guys through it. And I just don't think that the answer is to play musical chairs at quarterback. The answer is for us to coach them better and put them in a position where they just can have a little success moving the football. 2 weeks ago, we had some of that, and last week we had none of it. So, I guess that's on me.
Scott Goodell on Twitter last night, offered some support and said, the negativity is brutal and doesn't help anyone. Curious on your perspective on that. Just, I know you're bunkered down, but fans are frustrated. Not with you per se, but just with the state of the program in general. Do you have a message with the fans? Do you agree with that? That it's tough and just try to be as positive as possible.
I understand the frustration for sure. Everybody wants to win, but we're in the situation we're in right now. So the negativity doesn't help anybody. Certainly doesn't help these kids. Because if somebody thinks that they don't want to win, they're sadly mistaken. Those guys are out there and they're trying really hard, and if they get to practice, they'd see that a lot of guys are working really hard. And I think that if that's what Scott said, he's 100% right. It really doesn't help anybody. Obviously there is some change coming down the road here, but that when that comes, that's a whole separate issue and really has nothing to do with me. I'm going to go out and coach this team every day and try and put them in a position to be successful. I think that those guys should support these kids. If they're not happy with what's going on, well, things clearly there's been a lot of change here, so there will continue to be change. I actually think it's it's actually silly. I don't know what they could possibly be talking about. They've already made change, and more change will come. And as that comes, the team's going to have to grow and develop. And what I want for our players is, when they get to that point in December, and if this team's turned over to someone else, that we're a little bit better then than we are now. And hopefully those guys are a little bit closer to being the type of team that we want to be. And that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over time.
I think you're friends with Scott. You've known him for a long
Sure.
time. You were a wrestling coach beforehand. Have you ever modeled what you wanted to do as a program, off what he's done here?
Well, in a lot of ways, he should be the I mean, as a high school coach, he's like, like an idol to me, probably. But the truth is that, yeah, I think that what he did in building that program is incredibly remarkable, but it also took tremendous patience. I think he's been here 10 or 11 years, and the work that he put into his team is now competes at the highest possible level in college wrestling. And we're not going to turn into a team that's a top 5 team in the country overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take development, but I think that this state clearly has enough good players. The region has enough good players. There's so many things that Rutgers has to offer, and it just really seems to me like working together is a lot better way to get there than to people to be negative all the time.
Coach, heading into that first game with Johnny there, you said you only had a few days to install a new offensive system. Have you been able to install a lot more, and do you expect to be able to dig a little deeper into that playbook?
Well, I think it's more a matter of figuring out what our players can do. I mean, it's a great question because you have to be careful that you're not putting too much on their plates that they're overwhelmed. And as I've said all along, it's really the same plays, a lot of the same things, just maybe a little different bells and whistles on them. But I do think that that's really important for us to get to the things that we think give our kids a chance to be successful. So some of the things that we had we really did not run a lot of plays the other day in the game. So because of that, we left a lot of plays on the play sheet, and hopefully getting an extra week of practice at them, we get them called in the game, and we can create some plays out of it. But we never really got started. We talked a lot last week about staying on schedule, and we were way off schedule the whole day. So the third down situations were, I mean, you couldn't be worse on third down than we were. So
We'll take 2 more questions. Anything Minnesota related?
Yeah, I was about to ask. Minnesota, your impressions of them, obviously an unbeaten team and probably a lot of Rutgers ties to it. What type of Minnesota program do you expect to come on Saturday?
Well, one, I'm super impressed with the job they've done. I mean, you talk about building a program. I mean, they've really done a great job of developing their team, even over the course of the year. I mean, you see them getting better. I mean, they play really hard. They're very disciplined. They're very well coached. They do a lot of things well in all 3 phases of the game. So, and obviously I know a lot of the guys that coach there. There are a lot of great guys there. So, I think that they will continue to be those things. I mean, they seem to get a little bit better every week, and they're a really solid football team. They're impressive.
Final one?
So PJ, I mean, you probably dealt with him back in the day. He was here and whatever. How well do you know him, and like your impressions of him as he's grown, as a coach?
Well, I think it's been really impressive. When I first came to practice and watched him, I was like, wow, this guy's, he's 1,000 miles an hour. I was like, that can't be real. And I guess as I got to know him, I was like, that's actually seems to be exactly who he is. So he is. It's exactly who, he seems to bring that energy every day. I mean, I haven't been around him a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, but when he was here, I was super impressed every time I came to practice that he was able to just be that energetic, that positive, and that competitive at all times. And, obviously in the 2 programs he's had the opportunity to coach, he's done a great job of instilling that culture, and, clearly that is, what they're building their team on. But you see it on the field, you see it in how they play. So I think that it's been pretty impressive what he's done at both schools.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.